Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest version of Tales from Outer Space, where I take an HFY story from somewhere around the internet and read it aloud for your enjoyment. All the relevant links are down below. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube comf to help this video and channel grow. Anyways, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I would just like to thank the following Tier 5 patrons and channel members for supporting the channel: BuzzKillington, Datamagnet, and Bob the Dragon. Thank you again. And now, on to the story. Pretty little Deathworlders, outgrowing your programming. This situation is not good. That was the biggest understatement that Admiral Silva had ever made. The news of the last were apparently changing course to head straight to Earth had nearly broken her. So far, nothing had stopped the craft firing on its targets, though they had saved many lives via evacuation. The Sol system is the least developed system in the entire stellar fleet, she continued. It has 3 inhabited bodies, Earth, Luna, and Mars, and its dominant species holds no other inhabited worlds in any other system. Furthermore, the 3 inhabited bodies are all clustered close together, relatively speaking. The other generals and leaders in the conference took their notes grimly. Silva pressed the button on the podium, and a projection of the stellar neighborhood around Sol appeared above her, illuminating her tired face. The craft's last suspected position was marked in a bright red. Most species had red blood, so it was a good universal warning color. What we need to save the Sol system is an opportunity. And, luckily, we have one. A curved red line sprang up between the stars of the display. As it turns out, a moon-sized spaceship consumes a lot of power, especially if it wields a planet-burning weapon. The last might want to head straight to Earth, but they can't because they need to keep stopping and refueling. Here you can see the optimum path for the craft to take based on our knowledge of it. Based on the dark space field readings, it hasn't strayed from this path. That means that it's going to enter Sol at a very particular angle. Silva pressed another button, and the projection shifted to an overview of the craft itself. Because it takes a lot of power to move this thing, it also takes a lot of power to shift its course. And even the tiniest course change will produce a huge shift in its eventual destination. The pilots have also to be very, very mindful of their path, because the craft's gravity well is sufficient to cause major gravitational disturbances if it gets too close to natural bodies. The display shifted to an overlay of the Sol system, with the craft's theorized path marked in red again. The shift provoked a lot of muttering from those watching. I see you've all noticed the opportunity. To maximize efficiency and avoid issue with any of the bodies in system, they have to use Sol's gravity well to spiral towards their targets. Silva pointed to a particular spot in the map, and that means that they'll be entering the inner area of the system through the Hawking Strait, the section of the asteroid belt that has the lowest frequency of asteroids. The Queen Admiral chittered for attention. It was a booming sound. Silva's gaze snapped to her immediately. Your Majesty, is there a problem? Space is 3-dimensional. Could they not just go over or under the asteroid belt? In theory, yes. But that would require a large correction to get Earth and Mars, and that would take an awful lot of time and energy. I don't doubt that the smaller ships will spread out around the belt, but the craft itself has to sacrifice its maneuverability for size and power. The Queen Admiral seemed to be satisfied by this. She reclined a little on her chair and motioned for Silva to continue. Anyway, the Hawking Strait is often used by sublight huge ships to travel from the inner system to the outer system. It's the ideal place to set up an ambush, which is the last thing they'll expect, pointed out the Lakalan Chief Admiral. Silva quirked an eyebrow up. What they will expect, Chief Admiral, is one of 2 things. First, they might expect a full frontal assault designed to destroy the craft. Second, they might expect the attempt at storing the craft to maximize evacuees. My proposition is that we do neither. Destroying the craft is probably nigh impossible without a comparative superweapon, and while we could just abandon our system... She paused. A hot flash of emotion came over her. It was a mixture of rage, sorrow, fear, and defiance. When she spoke again, it was in a voice both icy with professionalism and burning with anger. We don't want to. The subject has been discussed at length on every level, and humanity stands united. If they want Earth, they'll have to burn every single living human first. The conference went completely silent. You could have heard a hand clapping in that moment. So, we came to a third option, Silva said, feeling a little self-conscious from the way that everyone was staring at her. This one relies on information that technician Hermes gave us about the culture and psychology of the lost. As Silva detailed the human proposition for how to save Earth, she watched the faces of the allies. They seemed shocked, befuddled, doubtful, and in cases, just a tiny bit hopeful. A few months ago, this might have seemed like suicide, but now it seemed like drinking doozy toxin mixed with grapefruit juice. Only a human would think of it, but it might just work. Yamada sank down into her armchair with a deep groan. She'd been over the plans for the Battle of Solon 1,000 times, and while it was a good plan, she wasn't wholly convinced that it would work. Of course, the alternatives were even worse. She'd rather fly into the sun than sign off on genocide. The Tokyo skyline was beautiful that night. The sky did not care that it might soon be ablaze, even if the people above and below it cared a great deal. Yamada watched the stars nervously. If they'd misjudged the craft's path, would her warning be the stars twinkling out as it blocked them from view? The thought made her nauseous. A buzz at the door made her jump out of her skin. She stared at the door intercom, willing her racing heart to slow. Then she stood and walked over to it, pressing the talk button. Hello, Ambassador. You have a visitor. Researcher Zeteron Dalkisminant. What the hell does Dalkisminant doing on Earth, especially right now? Send her up. Yamada hurried over to her kitchen and quickly brewed 2 teas. One normal size, one much smaller. Her front door slid open neatly to reveal Dalkisminat standing there in casual clothes, holding a small bag. Dalkisminat, I'd say I was happy to see you, but right now, here. The door slid shut automatically after Dalkisminat, who flew over to Yamada and sat on the kitchen counter. As the foremost foreign researcher on human psychology, I thought that it made sense for me to come and stand with you in solidarity. She took her tea and sipped it politely. Thank you for this. You're most welcome. Well, that's a very nice gesture. It is also very stupid of you, given the situation. Yamada sipped her own tea, hoping that it would calm her nerves a little. Doesn't your research indicate that we're the suicidal ones? This isn't suicidal. I've weighed the facts, and I genuinely believe that the plan will work. Earth won't burn. She paused thoughtfully. Do you not believe that'll work? Speaking completely off the record, I'm not convinced. I think it's a bit too optimistic regarding the nature of the last. Their track record is just, it's just way too bloody for me to believe that it'll work. Dalkisminat trilled smugly, like she knew something about the last that Yamada didn't. What's that noise for? You are falling into the same trap as every first xenopsychobiology student. Define species entirely by evolutionary trends. She took a much deeper gulp of her tea before continuing. Think of the aggression on a scale of average value, not a set-in-stone determiner of a species' behavior. The doozy, average one, because nothing on their homeworld can even touch them without dying a horrible death. Now they're up against something that can kill them without touching them. How have they responded? Yamada spotted the question. A memory surfaced of Ambassador Zuzina's rage during the first discussion of Hermes' information. Yes, and while we're discussing it, they're methodically burning their way through billions of people. And come to think of it, hadn't Murokai helped Rua with his plan to stop the Unchained? They've gotten angry. They've found ways to fight back. Even they're not capable of thinking in a way that suits war. Yamada's eyes opened. Oh God, they're being aggressive. Precisely. If they didn't have the capability to adapt psychologically like that, then toxins or no toxins, they would never have made it off the homeworld. Now, consider humanity. You guys have an aggression of 16. Does that mean that your response to anything bothersome is violence? No. We might get angry, but we're taught from a young age to control our emotions and not respond to the things with violence. The meaning of what you said just hit Yamada like a train. She nearly dropped her mug. Delgizmanat trilled smugly again, taking another sip of tea as she did so and making an amused bubbling sound. The last have estimated aggressive score of 17. They have strong aggressive urges because of the death world that they evolved on. But as intelligent beings, they also have the ability to move beyond those urges. They don't realize that this is an option when it comes to an alien race. Yes, but how do we convince them of that before Earth burns? You said it yourself. Hit them with a stick until they get the message that genocide is bad. We just need the right stick for the job. Hell of a stick. Well, yeah, that's the issue, Dalgismanat winced. But I think we've come up with a pretty good stick, all things considered. The two of them stayed there in a comfortable silence for a few minutes, staring out of the window at the Tokyo night skyline. Dalgismanat rattled over to the windowsill and sat on it. Beautiful city you live in, Yamada. Mickey. Huh? It's the apocalypse. I think we're friends now. Call me Mickey. Okay, Mickey. Call me Zetron. Mickey nodded. If the city's still here when this is over, I'd love to take you on a tour as a turn. I'm holding you to that. End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.